So it's my pleasure to speak to you all tonight about our work in 2024 and what we've accomplished. I hope you can all see my screen where I included one of the pictures we got of myself with two of the pro bono lawyers we've worked with. This is John Truman and Chloe Trudell. So 2024 was a pretty good year. Here's some of the highlights in the news we had. I had an op-ed in the Edmonton Journal on ending tax exemptions for religious properties. We were covered quite extensively, and I'll speak a bunch about a number of these stories as we kind of go through this report. I'll try not to take too much of your time, though. One of the biggest things that ended up coming out of our work this past year was the Finance Committee of the House of Commons recommending that the Income Tax Act be amended to essentially remove the privileged status of advancement of religion as a charitable purpose. This is something we had submitted as a recommendation for several years in our budget consultation. It's something that I've drafted and can basically throw together in an hour or two to send to the pre-budget because I'm just using the same report that we've submitted. And this year they bit and they included it in the committee's report of MPs among 500 recommendations or 460 recommendations. So it was unlikely to go anywhere, but it caused quite a stir as told by all of the media outlets that have picked up this story, especially from evangelical and religious groups who are just afraid. You can see the Vatican News picked this up, and apparently Pope Leo, the new Pope Leo, has actually already written to our finance committee or our finance minister concerned about this. Evangelicals are concerned about this. ARPA, a number of other religious groups, conservative politicians have been speaking out about this. We're also being picked up by like National Secular Society in the UK picked this up. So without doing a lot on this file, people have noticed it and are worried. And like I said, I don't think it's going to go very far, very fast, but we've cracked the door open and we're going to keep pushing at that door because this is more press than I've seen us get on anything. And we've done a lot of different work. Not all of these acknowledge us or noticed us, but a few actually started to because they dug through where did this recommendation come from, and it was ours. It was word for word from things we submitted. The other big amount of work we did in this past year was continuing our Saguenay project, which was going through municipalities and which ones are including prayers in their local government meetings. We released two reports off data we've had collected for a while, looking at Alberta and Saskatchewan. In both cases, we found a handful of municipalities that still open their regular meetings and their inaugural meetings with prayers. We actually got a little bit of noise in the municipal district of Bonnyville, where the Reeve, which is effectively the rural mayor of that community, was quite upset that we called out his community, but they did realize that what they were doing was unconstitutional and they ceased including prayers in their meetings. We didn't get as much pickup on the Saskatchewan report, but we have a few more of these to release. It's pretty formulaic for us at this point. We've got the data and it's just a matter of cleaning it up and pushing out the reports. And we have a fantastic team of volunteers helping on this. The other big report we dropped this year was our annual April 1st day release. This year, we proposed using an electric monk to provide the daily prayers in the BC legislature. Since we have all of this AI technology, why not replace the most formulaic thing with something spit out by machines? And we generated some samples and arguments for that and some fun graphic or, tacky graphics from those kind of machines. We had a couple academic publications early in the year in this European sociology and religion study. Teal, who's on the call right now, wrote both of these up. And so we got two more academic publications because our research isn't all just advocacy. We do get publications out of this. We had a number of other like smaller projects throughout the year. One I want to highlight is this blog post we put out on church partisanship. So churches right now are registered charities. So like us, they have to be strictly nonpartisan when it comes to elections. Yet here we have, in one case, Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party, and MP Jamil Javani being prayed over by pastors at Brantford Church I believe, where Giovanni is actually a member, and they encouraged members to, go and support these conservatives. And we pulled language because they posted their videos. We pulled language and sent it to the CRA. We also flagged on the other side here, this is Oakland's Chapel in Victoria, where they are praying over three candidates for the school board from the 2022 elections for the slate Viva Victoria. This was the like transphobic anti-GSA group that ran and lost. But the pastor there had said, I encourage everyone to support these candidates for the school board. Uh, Unfortunately, we have no clue what the CRA is doing with our complaints because they kind of file them in a black box, and because it's taxpayer info, they won't tell anyone. But it's the kind of thing we've been keeping an eye on as well. Lots of other little projects off the side, for example, writing in support of bills to repeal corporal punishment provisions that allow the hitting of children, objecting to partnerships with religious groups that undermine the duty of neutrality, supporting ends of legislative prayer in other provinces, and a report that reflects the importance of protecting human rights in the Canada Summer Jobs Program. Uh, Continuing on the human rights theme, we've also been active, continuing to promote expansion of medical assistance in dying. A lawsuit was launched this past year against St. Paul's and Providence Hospital around its refusal to provide those services, and the fact that that means people who want to access MAID, who are patients there, have to be transferred. And one young woman did die during her transfer, unfortunately, and her family's now suing. That case is going to the BC Supreme Court, and this spring we were actually granted intervener status. So we will be at the BC Supreme Court arguing about the duty of neutrality there. And we also cheered on the federal government's plan to require greater transparency from crisis pregnancy centers and these anti-choice facilities that often have charitable status. And that has been kind of delayed by the election, but we'll look forward to seeing that in the new year. Speaking of elections, there was a provincial election last year. We put it to our members and supporters to find out what you wanted us to ask the politicians, and we came up with a good list. And we did get a response back from the BC NDP. You can decide whether or not you liked the answers. None of the other parties responded to us, but we did do an analysis of their platforms, and we saw a pretty good response rate and engagement from our members in this. Elections are a little bit tricky for nonprofits because you have to abide by various different regulations and rules. But I think we found a nice little niche where we're able to provide information to you and our supporters about the election without having to register as third-party advertisers because we are not actively advertising on it. We were out in the community a few times. I managed to make it out to Calgary for the We Can Reason conference in May of last year, and that's where we launched the report on prayers in Alberta. Shout out to Mike Gray, who was there from Radian, and many of the good speakers they had there. Dying with Dignity invited me out to Victoria to attend a community forum on end-of-life choices, and there I am at Pride in Vancouver, and we've been at many of those kind of events as well this year. And I'll just end with some of the data that I had from December on how 2024 went. Some of our social media was a little bit more flat. Facebook in particular has not been as strong as it used to, but our TikTok is really popular. Some of our videos get a few hundred views. We've gotten videos with 10 to 50,000 views on TikTok and lots of engagement. People really glom onto our content there. And our membership growth, we've gotten volunteers who say, we've seen you on social media, we want to get involved in this kind of work. And so that's all been really reassuring and inspiring to where we're going from here. And it kind of builds back to the questions we had about how do we close that fundraising gap. It's about getting more people to see us and to know about our work, getting them to become email subscribers, and then getting them to become members and donors. And we've seen, year over year fundraising growth for several years now, and that budget deficit that's $20,000 used to be $50,000, $60,000, and so it's been nice to really see that start to close as our runway also shortens up. So I will take questions from anyone who wants to ask.